Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever just stopped and wondered how we got here? I mean, how we went from these small, scattered groups of people to this huge, buzzing, interconnected world we live in today? Well, today we're going to break down the three huge pillars that made it all happen: where we choose to live, how we get around, and how we talk to each other. All right, let's jump right in. It all kicks off with a question that I bet every single one of us has asked probably while sitting in a car, not moving. This super simple, totally relatable problem, city traffic, right? It's actually the perfect doorway to understanding the much, much bigger story of how we built our entire world. And that's really what this is all about. If you want to get a handle on the challenges we face today, like traffic jams or pollution, you've got to hit rewind. We need to go back and see how we put this whole thing together, piece by piece. So, our story starts with what is probably the single biggest shift in all of human history. It's that moment when we went from just living in the natural world to actively starting to shape it for ourselves. For most of our time on this planet, we were completely dependent on whatever nature threw at us. But then, something changed. We started figuring things out. Skills like farming and building, and these skills didn't just help us survive, they let us build. This was a total game changer, the beginning of a whole new era that would eventually lead to things like property, laws, and governments. Right? So the very first thing we did with these brand new skills was decide where to put down roots. And that brings us to the first massive pillar of our modern world, the settlement. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? A settlement is just a place where people build homes. But think about what that really means. It's not just a bunch of buildings, it's a choice. It's people deciding to create a community, a place to call home. So how did we go from living in caves to living in high-rises? Now, what's so fascinating here is how one big idea, farming, completely changed society. The second we started growing our own food, we couldn't just wander around anymore. We had to stay put. We needed permanent homes, and with that came the ideal of owning land. That one simple need is what led directly to the first great civilizations, and it's no surprise they all popped up along fertile river valleys. So, what makes a place a great spot to build a town? Well, for thousands of years, this has been the magic checklist. You need a good climate, you obviously need water, you need land that you can actually build on, and you need soil that'll grow your food. It sounds super basic, but finding all four of those in one spot, that's the secret sauce for pretty much every great city in history. Of course, not every home is built to last forever. You've got temporary settlements, which are used by people who are always on the move, maybe following herds or the seasons. That's a lifestyle called transhumans. But for almost all of us today, the goal is permanence. We build a home, a community, and we plan to stick around. And these permanent places we build, they tend to fall into two main buckets. You've got rural villages, where life is mostly about working with the land, farming, fishing, that kind of thing. And then you have urban towns and cities, where life is all about making things, selling things, and providing services. And there it is. That's the big split that takes us right back to our original question about busy cities versus quiet villages. Okay, so we've settled down. We've settled down our homes, but a town is just an island unless you can connect with other towns. So let's move on to our second pillar, the story of transport. For the longest time, the fastest you could travel was as fast as your own 2 feet could carry you, or maybe on the back of an animal. Then came an invention so huge, so revolutionary, it literally changed the course of history: the wheel. Suddenly, moving people, and this is key, moving goods became way, way easier, and it kickstarted everything we know about travel today. And from that one invention, we got this incredible explosion of options, and each one has its own special power. Roadways are kind of the everyday workhorse, right? They're perfect for short distances. Then you have railways, total powerhouses for moving heavy stuff cheaply over land. When you need to move giant amounts of stuff over huge distances, waterways are still the cheapest way to do it. And then, for pure, unadulterated speed, airways just crush distance, connecting even the most remote places on Earth. So we figured out how to move our bodies and our stuff, but what about our ideas? This brings us to the third and final pillar that really shaped our modern world: communication. At its heart, communication is just this: getting a message from my brain into your brain. Simple. But the way we've done that has gone through an unbelievable revolution, maybe even a bigger one than the invention of the wheel. Just look at how fast things accelerated here. We went from just shouting at each other to the printing press, which gave us newspapers and created a shared public conversation for the first time. Then, in the last century, radio and TV didn't just share news, they created a global culture by talking to millions of people at once. And now, with satellites and the internet, we have instant, global, two-way conversations. It's totally changed the game. So the really important part is what all this technology lets us do. It's not just about chatting, it's about global business, it's about exploring space with satellites, it's about staying connected with people across oceans. I mean, think about it. We can book a hotel on the other side of the world from a little device in our pocket. That would have been pure magic just a couple of generations ago. So what do you get when you mix permanent homes with super fast travel and instant communication? Well, you get the world we're living in right now. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The world isn't literally getting smaller, of course, but the time and the effort it takes to get from one side to the other, whether that's with our bodies on a plane or with our words over the internet, has shrunk so dramatically that it feels like a smaller, tighter-knit place. You know, when you step back, the whole story of humanity is about finding new ways to connect and to close the distance between us. From settling by a river to building a global digital network, it all leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. Now that we've built this incredibly connected world, what do we build next? What's the next big project for all of us, together?